everyone. Yes, I do mean you. It's me, Silver Daddy. Are you ready for another exciting adventure, aka trip or Trippin' with me? We're about to discover and share some amazing life stories. If I take a few sudden tangent turns along the way, don't worry, because I'll find our way back. Come on, climb aboard and buckle up, because we are ready to start another great episode of Trippin' with Silver Daddy. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Trippin' with Silver Daddy. And we're gonna maybe finish my whole island tour. I have only 4 more to go, and I'm gonna hit my number 1. Hopefully we'll get to it this week. If not, it's probably enough that I could do an entire show on my number 1. But I'm gonna talk about what came in 16th out of the 20th place. And it's the Bahamas. I listed it number 13. But the Bahamas does not have a lot of positive things when it comes to LGBTQ community. Because of that, they got a pretty low rating in the Equidex. And that really moved them down in the ranking, you know. They're 4th from last. But the Bahamas is quite an interesting place. You know, it's like this Caribbean paradise in the Atlantic Ocean that is spread over 3,000 islands. So it has a very intriguing history. It has a vibrant culture and breathtaking natural beauty. History buffs probably remember and know that Christopher Columbus first landed in the Bahamas in 1492, mistaking it for the Indies. He thought he was in the Indies. He didn't quite go far enough around the world. And these islands are made up of coral reefs and limestone. They boast some of the most beautiful underwater worlds. A lot of reefs, a lot of fishing, and you know, they even have pink beaches. Yeah, I've been to the Pink Beach. So they have some very unusual and interesting things there. And for entertainment, the Bahamas has this vibrant mix of what they call John Cano parades. You know, a lot of these parades, the islands may call them something different, but they all seem to be kind of linked to this heritage of what we call carnival. And these are very lively festivals with colorful costumes, music. They have all that. But the Bahamas has so much more. You know, they do have some of the best and world-class casinos in the area. And not only that, there's a lot of famous celebrities that actually own islands in the Bahamas. I'm not sure if you knew that. Not that they own a house, they own the entire island. For example, actor Michael Douglas, Tyler Perry. Oh, the richest man in the world. Do you know who that is? That's Bernard Arnault. He owns a house. Eddie Murphy. Beyonce and Jay-Z, they don't just own one island, they own 2. I guess in case they want some space, or they want to bring their friends and put them on another island and not have to have them on their island. I don't know the reason. But when you got that kind of money, you can own 2 islands. Faith Hill and Tim McGraw have one. Johnny Depp. Oh yeah, Sir Richard Branson, he has 2 islands. Talk about him in a little bit. So if you're planning a trip to come down to the Bahamas, here's some of the best things that you can do there. First, let me just tell you about the Atlantis Paradise Island. this is famous, worldwide famous. You know, it's a luxury resort, and it has water slides, marine exhibits, and even underwater ruins. This is famous. Like, this is the one you can do the water slide, and it goes under the water, and then there's the sharks that are swimming. You go through the shark cage and all that. Really cool place. Also, some huge entertainers go there. I just saw on a billboard here in Florida that Christina Aguilera is going to be over there next month. So they get some very large entertainment, extremely popular. Now, I have a special thing about this place because when I was staying there for the Caribbean, some type of Caribbean convention that we were at, it is the place where I did my very first radio show. Yes, in Nassau. My very first show. Back then, it was called Trippin with Mike and Marcy. Marcy was my but after about 3 months, she couldn't do it anymore, so it was just Trippin with Mike. Now you know Silver Daddy's real first name. But that's what the show was called in the Caribbean. And it's where I did my very first podcast. Oh, it was funny. And I just kind of mentioned that I smoked cigars. That's where I started smoking cigars, because it was a part of the very first show. We were at where all the foodies are, and people were selling cigars, and they said they were Cuban cigars. I've never smoked a cigar. Marcy suggested, hey, let's buy a cigar and smoke a cigar and talk about cigars on the show. And I'm like, I've never smoked. Okay. And I started to try to smoke this cigar, and Marcy could smoke it like she had no problem. She's like an island girl. And I was trying to smoke it, and I was gagging, coughing. Like, during the whole first show, you can hear Marcy talking, and you hear me going, coughing the entire time. But I got so upset that I couldn't even smoke a cigar. When I got back to St. Croix, I started buying cigars. And I started smoking one every night on my porch in the rainforest. Then I got kind of addicted. Okay, let's move on. We got Exuma K. We'll talk about that in a little bit because they're famous for something. Port Lucana. It's kind of a shopping area on the Grand Bahamas. And then you have Nassau. You can just go to Nassau. There's so much to do in Nassau. A lot of things there. But one of the cool things in the Bahamas is the Bonefish National Park. And I just learned this yesterday from a guy I was talking to. I actually picked him up in my Uber and has a big boat, about bone fishing. Bone fishing is so popular because it is one of the hardest fish to catch, and they live in very shallow water where you have to kind of go on one of those boats that they use to pole just to push you around, or get out and walk in these flats. And bonefish, he told me, once they bite, they fight like hell. One of the hardest biting and fighting fish. But in order to catch them, you kind of almost need to use a fly fish rod. So it makes it more challenging. So a lot of really true fishermen, they love bonefish. And you know what? Oh, the Bahamas have the blue hole. Excuse me. The Bahamas have the blue hole. Everyone, it's me. And I'm at my favorite place, Majestic Car Wash. Because look, there's my blue beauty coming out from her weekly bath. I love this place. I keep telling you, if you live in Florida, this is where you need to get your car washed. And not only that, they got a special they're starting. If you buy 6 car washes, you get 4 free. This is a Mother's Day and Father's Day special. Buy 6, get 4 free. Come in. You need to come here to Majestic Car Wash in Fort Lauderdale on A1A. I'm sorry, no, on US 1. We're not on A1A. We're on US 1. I'm a little lost. But that is my car. And now they're rubbing it down. The inside's clean. It smells good. I'm just telling you, buy your mother or father a great gift. Get their car washed where Silver Daddy gets his. Bye. Yes, the Bahama and the blue holes, they're everywhere. There's so many. I don't know how many total. We'll have to research that. But blue holes are kind of this geological wonders, and especially when they're in the water and for divers. So what it basically is, think of it as there is a cave underwater. And this cave underwater is usually limestone. And the ceiling of a cave collapses down into the cave. And when it collapses, it makes this vertical shaft that goes all the way up to the sky. Well, the cave, depending on how deep it is, will depend on how deep then the blue hole is. So some of these blue holes are just like on land. Like you can walk in the Bahamas just on land, and there's a blue hole. It's like a round pond. But when it's out in the ocean, it's really cool because it's so deep that the water in the blue hole over the cave is so dark blue. And all the water around it is so shallow with sand reflecting the sun, and it has that beautiful turquoise view. So you have turquoise and then this deep, dark blue because of its depth. Now, the Bahamas boasts the second deepest blue hole in the world, and that's Dean's Blue Hole on Long Island. And this is the blue hole in the Bahamas that a lot of world records are determined. This blue hole is basically 663 feet deep, which is like 202 meters deep. So free divers, and that's people who dive with no oxygen, they do the straight down dive just holding their breaths. And a lot of the world records are done there. Now, I just watched a show that's streaming on Peacock. That's the Orlando Bloom show. And it's called Orlando Bloom to the Edge. And he actually did this free diving at Dean's Blue Hole. So if you really want to see what a blue hole and what this free diving's all about, go to NBC Peacock and look for Orlando Bloom's To the Edge. So there's a lot of blue holes in the Bahamas. You have the Lost Blue Hole, and that's in Nassau on New Providence. And this one's known for its sheltered walls that create crystal clear water. There's the Creator in Andros. And this is a favorite blue hole because cave divers, they can do more complex caving underneath in this blue hole. And then you have Blue Hole National Park, and that's in Abaco Island. This park protects several blue holes, and some that are, accessible by people who do snorkeling. So check out the blue holes. And, whenever we think of the Bahamas, we think of this image of this calm, turquoise water and these pristine beaches, beautiful beaches, white sand and pink sand. Oh, the Pink Sand Resort, beautiful area. A lot of the very rich and famous tend to go there. But did you know that the Bahamas has their own creepy version of Nessie? Yes. So move over, Nessie, because here comes Luska. Luska is this creature that lives in the Bahamas area. It's half shark and half octopus. And they say it reaches up to 75 feet, and it lurks in the deep areas around the blue holes in the Andrews. So Be very careful and make sure you have a camera, because unlike Nessie, very few people have ever taken a picture of Lusa. Now, did you know we're talking very tropical area, and it actually snowed in the Bahamas the same time it snowed here in South Florida? Yes, it's true. The Bahamas actually had snow. It never stuck, but snowflakes came down. And this was in January of 1977. A very cold snap came down from the Arctic, and it hit Florida and the Bahamas area at the same time where the warm Gulf of Mexico air came up, and it created snow. The only time that it's recorded that it ever snowed in the Bahamas was in January 1977. Hey everyone, get ready, because it's going to be a flocking good time. Because guess what? Flock Fest is about to be here. It's July 4th through 7th. But Flock Fest is more than just this huge event on the beach in Fort Lauderdale. You know, you have Flock the Block, you have Flock Fest beach parties, there's Flock Fest Splash, there's all kinds of events. The only way you can be up to date is to actually go to flockfestevents.org, and you can check out all the great things that's going on. This event is so important to the community because Flock Fest actually donates their profits to many different organizations, like the Wilton Manors Business Association. They also donate to the Pet Project, to Prism, to the Broward House. There's so many different organizations. Safe Schools of South Florida, Outshine, POW. There's so many organizations that benefit from Flock Fest. So you need to go to flockfestevents.org and get your tickets now. Silver Daddy's going to be there. So yes, it has snowed. That's kind of interesting. Usually the only place I've ever seen snow in the area of where it's this warm is on top of a mountain. So that's something historical to remember. Also, on Big Major Cay in the Exuma Cays is famous because they have a colony of swimming pigs. Yes, and it is such a tourist attraction. Everyone wants to go swim with the pigs. And it's true. I've been there. I went with my daughter. And we went on this boat to the island. And you pull up on the boat. And there's really not much there. But there's all these pigs. And they sit up under the trees. And once you get out on shore, the pigs wake up because they know you're bringing some type of food with them. And they start getting kind of feisty. And it's kind of weird because they are wild pigs and they do bite. So don't think these are the kind of pigs you're going to cuddle with. No, it's not that kind of pig. And for you gay people, it's not that kind of pig either. But these pigs are interesting because what you can do is you actually they give you apples. They love apples. And you get the apples, they start smelling them, and they start walking around doing all their pig noises. And they come out to the beach, and if you walk out in the water, the pigs will follow you all the way out into the water. And you can throw the apples, and they'll go swim to get their apples, or they'll just swim around, and you can feed them there. But make sure you hold your apples so they don't take your fingers with you. But then it's fun. And it's like a big tourist thing over there. They advertise this all over the place. And people just want to go there for the swimming pigs. And then in Bimini's the island probably closest to Florida. I think it's only like 39 miles from Florida. Bimini is a great little island, especially for diving. There's a couple boat wrecks. There's a giant boat wreck that part of it's underwater, part sticks up above water you can do. But what Bimini's really known for is you can go diving with the sharks. That's the place they feed the sharks, and people feed sharks. That's another one. You got to watch your fingers when you're feeding sharks. You got to make sure you're just holding it by the tip and you let go of that thing, because sharks don't care if they're hungry, and then they start getting into this like frenzy. So you just got to sit real still. And I believe they're both mostly black tip sharks. But that is like really cool in Bimini. And Bimini has a resort on Bimini. So it's a really neat area. Oh, in Bimini, they have the singing fish. Yes. You can go underwater and they have these fish. They're actually a type of toadfish. And what they do is they like chirp, almost like frogs, underwater. And they use their swim bladder to release the air, and it makes this croaking sound or like a drumming sound. And when you get a bunch of them when it's mating season doing it, they're just putting on a damn symphony underwater. That is like really interesting to see, is the singing frogs or the singing fish. But the other thing about Bimini is you'll see this on a lot of different shows. Underwater in Bimini, they have what they call the submerged road. There is actually these blocked rocks that are huge that make up what looks like a road. And they think this is a ancient civilization that has sunk into the ocean. So naturally, a lot of people start saying this is where Atlantis is because of this sunken road in Bimini. It's something that you can only see if you fly over or if you're diving. I'm just telling you, it's kind of a cool thing. I haven't actually seen it, but I've seen it on many shows for diving. Now let me get you up to date. This is for my friends. I met a lot of men in the Bahamas. Super nice, but very much on the download, because no one in the Bahamas wants to be outed. And the funny thing is, one of the guys I met, I was in Fort Lauderdale at the bar, and all of a sudden he's at the bar in Fort Lauderdale and he remembers me. So, a lot of cool things, a lot of great stories I remember. I spent a lot of time in the Bahamas. A lot of it was work related, and I've been to many different islands. Not the total of 3,000 islands. Oh, you want to hear one of the craziest thing about the place? Remember I said there's 3,000 islands that make up the Bahamas? Listen to this. There's only like 30,000 people that live in the Bahamas. So when you do the math, you got 3,000 islands and 30,000 people. That averages to about 10 people per island. So if you need an island and a place to get away, this is where you go. And this is why a lot of the pirates used to hang out in the Bahamas. Hey everyone, I gotta go to break. So please listen to my sponsor, and also subscribe, like, and follow. I would deeply appreciate. I'll be right back. I want to tell you about my friend Jasmine, but we all just call her Jazzy because she is such a cool person. And you know, she has been doing yoga for over 10 years. And for 6 years, she's actually been a certified yoga instructor. And what makes her so special, she gives great one-on-one personal lessons, or she can do group lessons. If you're like me and need to work on your flexibility as you're getting older, or, you know, you just need to find that tranquil, calm place to be, Jazzy can help you. I know she's the right person for you. Hey, her information is above. It's on Instagram. Check her out at Suffocating Love Zero. Hey everyone, welcome back. And this segment is going to be a fun one because you're going to hear about me and Taylor Swift, or I should really say Taylor Swift and I, sleeping in the same bed. Yes, can you believe that? Oh my God, wait till you hear about this. Oh, and me buying Sir Richard Branson a beer at the bar. I have some great stories to tell you. Oh, where am I talking about? We're talking about the British Virgin Islands. And I will let you know, this was ranked as my 4th favorite island in the Caribbean I've been to. Overall, it was ranked number 6. And I have a lot of tea to spill and a lot of stuff. Oh, let's just start with, where do we start? So the British Virgin Islands, some of the, by far, most beautiful islands in the Caribbean from a beauty point of view. And this is an archipelago island chain scattered through the Caribbean in this turquoise water. A lot of shallow water area, and that gives it that beautiful turquoise color. And also you can see really deep in the water. I mean, let's talk about it. Let's just dive in and talk about some of my favorite things. I was once there with my friend Brooke. We'll talk about Brooke more on the next island. But we were on a boat, Brooke, myself, and a couple other people that worked for the airlines. And we were just out snorkeling and swimming. And there was just sea turtles everywhere. You'd snorkel, look down, you'd see 6 or 7 sea turtles. You'd see stingrays. There was some baby little sharks, like the real tiny 1 foot, 2 foot. But the water was so clear. It's just breathtaking. You know, these islands have been around for a long time. Like a long, long time. Because these islands were originally inhabited by the indigenous Siboney people. We talked about the Siboney people on another island where they were there for almost 2,000 years before BC. So the Siboney's were around on these islands way long. We don't know a whole lot about them. But later, the Arawak people tend to be in the islands. We know a little bit more about them from, you know, the ruins that they left and being able to see all this. Oh, I just noticed, I forgot to tell you, I just changed my camera mode to Cinemax. Can't wait to see the difference. I noticed all of a sudden the trees here in the park are all kind of like fuzzy behind me. Hope this turns out well. For those that are watching on YouTube, you know, you need to really follow my YouTube channel, please. I would really appreciate it if you just subscribe to it. So look for Trippin with Silver Daddy on YouTube. Oh, back to some of my favorite islands. So, yeah, the island and the people on these islands have been there a long time. But one of the coolest things in the islands of the Bahamas is on Virgin Gorda. Virgin Gorda probably ranks as my favorite island because of all the stuff that happened on Virgin Gorda. You know, Virgin Gorda has what they call the Bass. If you ever go on a cruise ship or you get to the Bahamas, even from Tortola, you can take the ferry. You have to go to the Bass. It is like on my top 10 things I've ever seen in the world. The Bass is this big granite boulders that looks like a giant god just picked them up and dropped them all on this section of a beach. When I'm talking giant boulders, I'm talking boulders that are as big as a house. And these boulders make all these really interesting like grottos and tunnels, almost like a cave system. And what you can do, there's naturally, wherever you have a lot of people, there's a bar. So there's a bar right by there, and you get drinks, and you go walking through these tunnels, sunlight's coming through, and they're right on the beach on the shallow parts. So when the tide's coming in, water's coming in these tunnel areas and these grottos, and you just sit around with all your friends drinking and talking. It is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. It is so cool. But also in the same area, you have such cool coral life and the colorful fish, and you have shipwrecks. There's some great shipwreck dives there. I've done some of the best shipwrecking dives in this area of the Bahamas. Virgin Gorda is just incredible. It really is. You have to take a boat there. And let me tell you a secret. Taylor Swift and I, we slept in the same bed. The exact same bed. Yes, it was like something that very few people in the world probably can say. But Taylor Swift and I slept in the same bed. Not at the same time, obviously, but she actually stayed in this private little resort in Virgin Gorda. And according to the owner, it's also where she broke up with her boyfriend. And when we were doing business there, I was invited and I was given the same room. So there goes my claim to fame for all you Swifties. I slept in the same bed as Taylor. Okay, so if you're a Swiftie, follow my show. Taylor Swift, if this ever gets to you, I apologize in advance. But boy, Taylor Swift, if you could tell everyone to follow Trippin with Silver Daddy, I could hit more than 700 followers. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, I was there. And it's a really cool area because right in this whole area on the, I don't know if it's the North Shore of Virgin Gorda, you have a lot of really cool resorts. I mean, really nice resorts. Beautiful. And then right off the island is Nectar and Mosquito Island. These are two islands that Sir Richard Branson owned. Yeah. He owns two of these islands in the BVI. You know what? I think I made a mistake, so I have to do a retraction. I said Richard Branson owns two islands when I was talking about the Bahamas. I got that mixed up. It's actually, he does not own the two islands of the Bahamas. He owns the two islands here in the British Virgin Islands. Speaking of Sir Richard Branson, got a story. True story. I was over there. So like I said, you can take a ferry to Virgin Gorda, and the ferry goes right to Beef Island by Tortola. It's part of Tortola. It's like almost connecting islands. And that's where the airport is in Tortola, is in Beef Island. So I was waiting for the ferry to go out to Virgin Gorda, and there's a bar right there on the beach across from the airport. And as I'm there, I'm having a drink. I wasn't on work, but I was drinking. And you won't believe what happened. Hey everyone, I'm going to let you in on the Silver Daddy secret. Where does Silver Daddy get his hair, beard, and skin taken care of on his face? I go to JT Cuts Academy. The reason I go there, the owner, JT, has two very successful barbershops in Fort Lauderdale, and he has actually won the award for the best barber in the area. Now, Silver Daddy used to be a teacher, and I also wrote training for airlines, and I did a lot of training. So I'm really a big believer in helping people learn to become better. There is no better way than to get a great haircut or get a shave, beard taken care of by students who are learning but have put the hours in and practicing. And they are under the guidance of some of the best instructors in the area. I love going into JT Cuts Academy because, one, I know I'm going to look out my best, and two, I'm going to be helping students get credit so they can graduate and have their own life. It's a win-win for everyone. Check out JT Cut Academies. Call them for times that they're cutting. Yes, you won't believe this, but walking the beach on the phone, pacing like a lion back and forth on a cell phone with Sir Richard Branson. And I guess he was waiting for the ferry too. And he's walking back and forth. And he comes to the bar and he sits right next to me. And I said, hey, bartender, if he wants a drink, please put the drink on me. And he kind of like just chuckled and he said, hey, because I appreciate it. I guess you don't know who I am. And I'm like, yeah, I know who you are, but I just saw you pacing on the beach on your phone, so you look stressed. I think you need a drink. He just laughed, and he actually took my drink. And then he said, hey, buy everyone at the bar a drink. I couldn't afford to buy everyone a drink, but he sure in hell could. He was just very humble, very nice and laid back. So yeah, I have another great story about this area. But I can also tell you, so Sir Richard Branson, so he has his one island that he lives, and then he bought the island right next door to it. And we were told he's developing that island to put all his family and friends on, because right now they all come to his island and have to stay in his house. So he wants a little bit more privacy. So he's bought the island next door so people could boat back and forth between his house and the house that he's building on Mosquito Island. And the other cool thing is, one night when we were all there, I was there for several times. Once I took a bunch of travel agents to this island, and we went out, we were at the bar at night, and we met his personal tennis pro, who he takes a tennis lesson, I think it was like 3 or 4 times a week at 8 o'clock in the morning for an hour. This tennis pro works for an hour, 4 hours a week, but gets to stay in his house and on the resort area. I guess it's just a house, but it's like a resort. But yeah, we met his tennis pro and a bunch of people that work on his island. They all said how cool he is. So it's kind of interesting. And yes, the other interesting thing, did you know they have donkeys there? They have not just donkeys, they have lots of donkeys that like to take baths. When I say like, I said they like to take baths. Well, it's actually kind of like they just go out in the ocean. All these donkeys, they love the cool water and everything. So it's kind of very interesting. You know, I'm just realizing I got a lot of my information really kind of messed up earlier. I was talking about the Bahamas having only 30,000 people. That's actually the BVI, the British Virgin Islands. The British Virgin Islands, they have a bunch of people, but only like a population of 30,000. Kind of interesting. So here's the big things that you need to do in the British Virgin Islands. Let me tell you. We've already talked about the baths. You must go to the baths. That is the number one and the best thing I think you can do there. Another great thing, you can go to the Horseshoe Reef. That's on Anegada. That's on the very northern part of the BVI. And it's great for snorkeling and the reefs. And I was told, I'm just remembering a story I was told about this island. I've never been to this island. But I was told that when you get there, there's a huge telephone pole in the middle of the island, and I think the top's it's painted orange. So when you're sailing, you can see that because the island's so flat that you hardly ever see the land. So they put a giant telephone pole in the middle with painting it really bright at the top so boaters can actually see it if they can't follow their coordinates. But they say that island and the snorkeling there is incredible. I unfortunately never got to that part of the BVI. Now you also have Jost Van Dyke National Park, another great place for, there's cliffs and hiking trails and swimming. And then Road Town in Tortola, that's the capital. So many shops, a lot of duty-free shopping. There's a lot of historical old sites in Road Town. It is one of the more beautiful capitals in the Caribbean. Just makes you feel like you're in luxury. And I'm just telling you, this island is filled with luxury. You have Treasure Trove, or they call it Turtle Trap. That's also out in the Angonda. Am I saying that right? Anaganda. That's that island where the Horseshoe Reef is. They also have a bunch of turtles that are all over in that area. I'm just telling you, I saw turtles everywhere. Tortola for turtles. Yeah, there's turtles everywhere in the BVI. You can just be on a boat and you can just count them. You can count 20 or 30 popping their heads up and then they go down and eat. So there's a lot of really interesting things that you can do. And, let's talk about something else. How about the full moon parties? Yes, the BVI is famous for its full moon parties. I don't know why, but full moon parties in the islands, a lot of them try to do something very similar that's so famous for the BVI, and they're just not the same. So in the BVI, there's basically what we would call two types of full moon party. There's the laid back family style ones, and then there's the wild all out party ones. And the only one I've been to was the all out wild party one. So, they're known for having their live music, the dancing under the moonlight. We have all that kind of calypso type music and people being one with nature, all that. But now, Trellis Bay on Beef Island, this is where the family-friendly option is. And they enjoy having buffet dinners, and they have a fireball that's a big, large metal sculpture they fill with wood and they light it on fire. A lot of places do that. That's just like a traditional thing with the Blue Moon. And then you just soak up and enjoy the atmosphere and hang out with friends and family and talk the shit. Now, the other thing about the Blue Moon, then you have the wild side. And that would be where the Bomba Shack was. The Bomba Shack was famous. And this is in Carpona Bay, Tortola. The Bomba Shack, unfortunately, was a bar on the beach, no longer exists because of Hurricane Maria. Kind of destroyed the place. But the area is still known for their wild parties. And I'm talking about wild parties. When it's a full moon, this whole bay is like bumper to bumper with giant sailboats. I mean, people cross boat to boat to boat. It's like boat hopping and partying. This party is unreal. And what it's also known for, the Blue Moon, is the Blue Moon tea. They make special teas for the Blue Moon parties. Now, a lot of people believe that when it's a full moon, that the full moon actually makes the herbs and the tea blossom and taste better. So picking the teas right around the full moon time and making a full moon tea is very popular. Now, remember I told you had the family side and the wild side? I'm just going to tell you, the wild side, their tea, if you work for a place that you got to get drug tested, you may not want to partake in that tea. Just letting you know. That's why it's the wild side. But there's so much more about the BVI. Oh, the parties there and the things we've done. What about, they have the fungi frenzy? Fungi, I think it's called frenzy. And fungi isn't a type of mushroom, but it's actually a traditional music and dance genre with its roots in African and European influence. Live fungi bands, they use a very unique variety of instruments, ranging from washboards and bongos to guitars and ukuleles, a little bit of all kinds of very unique instruments. And it's just kind of like, I would call it equivalent to America's up in bluegrass. Kind of like a bluegrass. Take bluegrass and marry it to calypso. And then you have fungi. That's what fungi is. Fungi is bluegrass and calypso having a child. That's the way I could explain it. But also, please realize that if you go to the BVI, money in the BVI is the American dollar. That's why so many Americans love to go there. Because that's what they use, is their currency, is the American dollar. BVI is the sailing paradise. This is where a lot of people go and rent big yacht-type sailboats. And they just go, you can just island hop in the BVI. A lot of yachts go there from St. Thomas area where they dock and they go over into the BVI. It's a very much a big boating community. And also, the BVI flags, this is kind of an interesting fact. They have there's a territorial flag, and it features the description of St. Ursula and 11 lamps on it. You have the governor's base flag, which is a Union Jack. You have the civilian insignia used for merchant ships. The 11 lamps on the territory flags representing the main islands and the surrounding cays. They have all these different flags. They don't have just one flag. I don't know why. So those are some interesting things that you can do. Hey everyone, it's me, Silver Daddy, and I keep telling you, I'm going to be at Blether, and that's July 26th, 27th, 28th. And what's Blether, you're asking? Blether is the Bear Leather weekend up in Mobile, Alabama. So it's time to get my leather on. Now, my question to you, do you like this one on me? Do you think this would look good? I'm at Leatherworks in Fort Lauderdale. If you're buying leather, this is where you have to come. Do you think this one, or do you like the more just the X? Hey, I need help. Well, they have this one. Nope, because I don't know where that bottom strap goes to. I'm afraid of that one. So tell me which of these two you like. The X one or this one? Leave your comments below. Bye. On Friday, July 26th, is the Red Light, Green Light Underwear Dance Party featuring DJ Robbie Kerrigan. July 27th, Roughnecks on the Rig will be having the 29th annual Mr. Gulf Coast Bear Contest, and that's going to be hosted by AJ McKay. When you come up to Mobile Blether Weekend, make sure you make your reservations today at the host hotel, Hampton Inns and Suites. It's only $139 a night. The British Virgin Islands is one of my favorite places. And I have so many great memories of this place. Yeah, when I took the Puerto Rican travel agents, they were all young. Oh, and Brooke was with us. We partied and had so much fun. And they wrote a lot of business in Tortola. So it was a very successful trip because they were using the airlines I was working for to get over to the British Virgin Islands. Yeah, it's amazing some of the things that happened in the British Virgin Islands. Like, I've been to some incredible big events, sailing events, and I've been to, used to deal directly with the Prime Minister and the Director of Tourism, so I really would like to go back. Yeah, it's easy to get there. If you're going to go to the BVI, there's always direct flights from San Juan, Puerto Rico, or if you get into St. Thomas, you can take a ferry over there. There's a lot of ways to get to the BVI. You know, it is the sailing paradise, and the turtle paradise, and the full moon party paradise, and the tea paradise. There's a lot of interesting things there. Hey everyone, I only have one more island to talk about, and it's my number one island. I am so excited to tell you about the very favorite island, my best island, and it's going to be incredible. And that's going to be next week on the next week's show. I'm going to dedicate the whole show to my favorite place, my number one island. Hey everyone, I'm going to run some credits, show you some important things you need to know. And you also need to know you need to be subscribing. And I really need your help because, you see, I'm technically an unemployed silver daddy. And YouTube will not compensate me unless I have over 1,000 subscribers and something like 3,000 minutes of view time. So any way you can help me by sharing my information and making sure you subscribe and like, I would really appreciate it. So right now, we're going to roll credits, and I'm going to be saying goodbye. So, as always, love, peace, and respect. You've been watching or listening to Trippin' with Silver Daddy. Bye!